I didn't realize how big of a problem it was within our society, especially for youth. We are like the most vulnerable and it can affect us the most.
I would describe hate as kind of attacking a fundamental part of somebody. Something that somebody cannot change. Something that's part of their identity. It's not a good feeling to feel scrutinized by who you are.
In the most simplest way, I'd say hate is the absence of love. I'm not just talking about like romantic love, but like in the sense of acknowledging a person as a human.
The threat of violence directed at an individual on the basis of their sex, their gender, their religion, their ethnicity.
Hate just breaks bonds apart, but connection and like actual peer support and like communication can fix these bonds.
Hate is just, it's a feeling, it's a human feeling. It's like feeling of like dislike.
Hate is a perfectly natural thing, right? And it comes in different strengths or varieties, right? I mean, like I hate avocado, right? Like, you know, I hate hockey. But the hate that's problematic, it's the hatred that's based in like an us versus them.
When you kind of like just have your own opinion and people around you have the same opinion, you don't really understand someone else's like perspective.
Where do you think that comes from, people?
The hate?
Yeah.
Ignorance, just plain ignorance. I don't think anyone takes the time to put themselves in other people's shoes.
I guess hate, you know what, it really, I feel as though it's fear, because people fear what they don't understand, right? And especially online, you don't know anything about this person, you know?
Like when people are anonymous on the internet and they're doing something hateful towards you, they don't see you as a person. And that in turn made myself like forget that I was a person, which is a weird experience.
I honestly think it's just kind of like a cycle, because somebody might face like hate when they're in person, like whether they're getting like bullied, whether they're not doing good, they're just sad, like bad things are happening to them, and they kind of use social media as an outlet to kind of just relieve all that stress and relieve all that anger, relieve all that sadness. With social media, like there isn't really that much responsibility, I guess, for what you say. A female friend of mine posted a bikini picture online, and they were getting like a lot of hate from different individuals saying like, oh, you look so ugly, you're so fat. It's just kind of like really mean comments about her body. That was kind of like the first instance of where I saw like online hate and how bad it can affect someone. Hearing about it just made me want to throw up, because I was like, how can someone say this about someone's body?
It's just to the point where it's like, there are just so many people that hate the fact that I exist. And I'm less inclined to even want to like stand up for myself, because it's just kind of like, it feels so pointless when like so much of my life has just been me feeling hated by so many people, people that don't even know me. You know, people who don't go through things I deal with, people who aren't trans, people who aren't black, people who just like don't have to go through as much as that. They don't have to explain themselves all the time. They're not exhausted explaining themselves.
In 2020 with like the uproar and like with the Black Lives Matter movement, the protesters, the farmers from India, and seeing like the Stop Asian Hate, like all of that and the conversation that it brought up, there was a lot of like sense of community, but also with that, it was really mentally challenging for a lot of people, including myself. So we want to be able to create a space where people can be free to speak what they want to, but then also uphold digital citizenship towards like, you know, themselves and those around them.
I think that's why the peer support group is a really, I guess, means of solving the problem, because if I see one of my friends suffering through that problem, I can help them, I can talk to them. Then they don't feel like they're an outsider, they're isolated, and it will help relieve the pain as well.
So I'm gonna very quickly do a couple of introductions. You all know I'm Corrine, and you've all met each other online before. And so today is our chance to kind of get to know each other in person a little bit. So the survey that Henry did last year identified that young people are encountering hate and violent extremism online, right? Like we saw, like 70% of them are seeing it on all their social media platforms regularly.
Most of the youth that came and joined this group that we now have, they were first introduced to the project by the survey, finally got it shared to over 850 students across schools in Edmonton and Calgary. I first reached out to John McCoy with the Organization for the Prevention of Violence in summer of 2020. And there we discussed the idea of some sort of research project, some sort of youth initiative where it's run by youth to support other youth on this like really important issue of hate and extremism.
The internet's kind of like the Wild West still, right? I mean, it's uncontrolled, and there's something that is beneficial to that and how unstructured it is, but it also has hazards attached to it as well, right? Because it creates opportunities for people with ulterior motives, those who want to spread hate and division specifically for their own purposes. And how do we assist youth in harnessing those ideas and that energy and providing the kind of resources that they need to engage in real prevention work.
The Resiliency Project is 4 different partners came together and did a funding proposal to Public Safety Canada, but they had the idea of forming the youth group. It's all driven by youth, it's supported by me and Corrine, but at the end of the day, it's about what they want to do about this topic, about online hate.
I don't think that I've ever met a person in my age group at least that hasn't interacted with online hate. I think everyone has at least one experience with it or multiple, and there's not much you can do about it other than talk with your friends and be like, oh yeah, that happened to me too.
Our first problem is like negativity is almost encouraged online, and people are also anonymous. So it's really hard to like provide consequence to these people for their negative behavior.
People learn to spread hate early on, right? And so if we can find ways to kind of combat.
Also, not only just how to fear themselves, but like if they were to experience online hate or like just bullying in general, who would they go to?
So our first idea was kind of related to teaching educators about some of the things that students might face when they're facing online hate. And the other idea was actually educating students on how they can help their friends and provide support to them.
Social media was here to bring us together, but it's just further dividing us through these negative impacts and effects on everyone. And so I don't think like social media is really doing the job that it was mainly like created for in the beginning, especially now it's like gone out of control.
I don't even want to. You guys did great. I don't feel like I can like summarize it all or wrap it all up in one thought. So I think what Yasmin and I are gonna do is we're gonna kind of take all of your ideas and we're gonna kind of list them under the problem state. But I feel like your point about social media and what social media, like the vision of social media, and frankly the vision of the internet originally was that it would be this beautiful space where we could all share knowledge, we could all be friends. And that's not what we have right now.
rise of social media and in the polarization of the world in the last few years, I think we're seeing this be much more of an issue than it used to be.
I don't think I understand how prevalent it is. It is something though that comes up all the time, and they're often brought to someone like me because these are things that students want to address and they want to try to figure out what can we do about this.
Even though I'm not that much older than a lot of the young people in this group, I didn't grow up having access to the internet in a way that they did.
And the landscape has really changed since I was young. Like online, I wasn't really worried about hate. It wasn't something I came across all the time, but I think it's something they're really experiencing and something they're personally seeing and observing.
You're talking about an online space that has changed so much and so rapidly. I think it's difficult for people who are Generation X or Y to really understand the experience of young people online today, and so I think they really have to tell us about what their experience looks like, and that's really helpful for us, I think, as we try to come up with solutions to how do we address the division, the hatred, and the extremism that we see as a real phenomenon online.
Someone who's 18 right now to think, oh, I'm just going to opt out of being online, how do you get established?
Especially as like a person who's a teenager, you can't just not use social media.
I think we're going to go into technology more and more as the years progress. I don't think there's any stopping that. If anything, we're going to just skyrocket from here on out.
Like, there's no consequence to being extremely negative on there. And also me, as being a straight white male, there's not much that people just off first glance would like to, attack me on. They'll go to the people that, already are marginalized.
A lot of my friends are like in the LGBTQIA community, and they face a lot of online hate.
I grew up on the internet, and just knowing how it works, like, it's so easy for people to just make a new account and harass you. There's a million different ways that people can find to harass you, and a lot of the time you'd think they'd get tired of it, and then they just don't.
When Anish did his kind of straw poll and asked our group, like, how many of you have experienced or witnessed online hate, I think 80% of the students in the room put their hands up. And that was shocking to me because for sure, 8 out of 10 kids haven't come to talk to me about that being an issue in their lives. And so the issue of online hate is one, but then the secondary issue is, where are these students going for support, and are they asking or reaching for support?
Why do you think it's such a problem on the internet?
You get to be anonymous. You don't have to face real consequences because you can make accounts over and over again, and you can hurt people over and over again without real consequences.
You would think that it would be easier to kind of like, hey, this person is like bullying me or saying like hateful things, but online it's not easy. And it's also like, even if you do report it, it's like very unlikely that they would get like punished or, they would face the consequences.
The simple definition of a hate crime is anytime there is a criminal offense committed against a person or property that is motivated by hate, probably one of the most underreported type of incidences or offenses that occur. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think a lot of times there are people who've had bad experiences with police.
It is rare that students come to us, but I think that they're also worried about what might happen, especially in this age of social media where people are able to kind of hide their name and face behind an anonymous username or platform or whatever the case might be.
And that's, I guess, what we're trying to do with Don't Click, is give people the tools so that they can, handle negativity online, both to themselves and as a bystander when you're seeing it with others.
You guys all know so much about what makes good teaching, right? You guys have 13 years of very relevant experience about what a good presentation looks like. Like, there are things that you want to teach, and there's activities that you want to do, right? And you need the activities to match up with what are you teaching.
So far, the plan is to have a strict outline of what we want to teach the youth in a short amount of time for like classes.
I think like we're kind of focusing on junior high students and kind of like just like they just don't realize that could have like such an effect on people.
Before they enter high school, before this problem really sets in and it's fundamental, we can inform young people and young students in junior highs across the city about how to be a better citizen online, how to properly respond to if you see it.
I really love that it's youth-led and just hearing a lot of perspectives from the individuals that are involved. And it's really empowering to see all these students who are in grade 11, grade 12 doing this stuff.
Especially because we want to teach these middle schoolers important lessons about life. So I wanted the theme to be about connection basically. If you don't have any peers to support you, it gets really lonely and you don't know who to turn to.
We talk about building safe spaces and creating safe spaces in our schools, in our communities. Are we creating safe spaces in our online communities or in our online profiles?
Younger generations are kind of getting into social media earlier. When I got into social media in grade 10 and 11, and my little sister who's 13 got into it this year. Yeah, so she's a grade 7 and she already did, so it was I was surprised to see that.
Grade 5, I got Instagram.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And it's so easy to get it. I don't think my parents really knew either what you could be exposed to.
I wasn't really involved in social media till later on to grade 10, which is very different compared to the people who are getting into social media in elementary. So our presentation is about online hate and online extremism. And to begin, my name is Anish.
I'm Kim.
And we're going to be looking at a solution to this issue.
Peer support is a supportive relationship between people who have shared lived experiences. It is face-to-face, empathetic, non-judgmental, and includes active listening.
And why is peer support helpful? Well, peer support is a form of support where you can engage in a close and trusted friend to help you solve an issue you're experiencing. Peer support is a useful tool that can be used to help fight against the negative effects of online hate.
Our student leaders are going to be able to solve this problem because it's a problem that directly impacts them the most.
So who are we? I'm a grade 12 student at WP Wagner.
I'm a grade 11 student at WP Wagner.
I'm a university student from McHugh University.
The four of us are here on behalf of an organization called Don't Click.
Especially with the younger generations, I think of my younger siblings and they're also in schools and stuff, and there's just so much going on. I'm really excited and pumped to get into the schools and just have more of the conversation.
I just wanted to ask to see what kind of platforms people in the room use. So just say yes or raise your hand if you can use any of these platforms. We'll begin with Snapchat. Any Snapchat users? Quite a few, yeah. All right. What about TikTok? Pretty popular now, eh? Quite a few in the room too. Okay. Instagram. Any Instagram users? No. Yes. Yeah. YouTube. Yeah. Have any of you guys seen any hateful content or violent extremism on these platforms? If you have, please raise your hand. Okay, I see quite a few hands, and this brings back to connecting to the survey, because similar to that, we have all encountered negativity on online spaces. So the question is, how do we go about dealing with that?
Okay, so just want to say a quick message. That was about peer support, right? And so the fact that we can be there for each other is one thing. So please do, come tell us things. We can help if you feel that we are somebody that you can come talk to, but don't try to solve all these things on your own. We want to say a big round of applause for all these presenters here.
I don't really post anything on my stories. I kind of have that inbuilt fear where if I post something, I might receive a mean comment. But I don't think anyone should do that, because people should have the freedom to, post whatever they want to, rather than be scared every time they post something that, oh, somebody might make a mean comment or they might start hating, so I'm just gonna push myself away. That isn't the answer. The answer is to stop that cycle and educate others and raise awareness about this issue and how we can help to solve it.
important thing is respect, I think. Yeah.
Respect.
The most important thing is not to give up.
Most important thing is humanity.
The most important thing is
Kindness.
The most important thing is peace.
Compassion. I think compassion and empathy really have to do with most of the problems we have today.
The most important thing is love.
Love. Yeah.